Only until about a year ago, if you asked any car nerd or business person for that matter in the West about Chinese cars, they would laugh in your face. But then BYD, they invited us behind the scenes to their factories and handed me the keys to this. And suddenly, the conversation became complicated. Recently, the largest electric vehicle manufacturer in China, BYD, invited myself and my fellow World Car jurors for an up-close and rather raw look at their factories, their latest vehicles. And when I say latest vehicles, the things you hear about, the cheap and cheerful electric vehicles, all the way up to cars you've never heard of. And this, before we really get farther down the road here, I need to say the quiet part out loud. I have a significant problem with the way the Western media talks about the Chinese car industry. It's very polarizing. On one side, you get the, oh my God, we completely dismissed this entire elephant in the room. And the other side, I don't want to call them shills, but they say effectively the battle is already won and lost. China is winning the race, and all the Western car manufacturers just pack it in and call it a day, and doom and gloom. This educational experience proved really neither is true. And it's not really about, oh my God, there's all these impressive vehicles. What we're going to learn over the next couple of minutes together is it's the pace of their industry, the scale of what they've created, but more importantly, and this is what no one's telling you, growing pains. Okay, so one of the common misconceptions about BYD outside of China, 100% EV. That's not entirely the case. What they have is production lines that make plug-in hybrids. However, what they're doing here with this model, you've got a gasoline engine in the front, and then you can see through the back there, you can see the orange line, which obviously is the charge port that goes down to the inverter and the battery. So what they've done here is they've made a model that it's not necessarily a standard serial production plug-in hybrid. It's kind of like a Volt from back in the day, where the actual gas engine is not connected to the drive wheels. Think of it as like a generator that produces energy for the battery in order to drive the drive wheels. So now we've pressed on to the other side of this very large campus that was originally constructed in 2022, and now it has multiple car lines that can work on different cars simultaneously. Now, over the years, you and I have spent a lot of time debating about the economics of manufacturing in China and some of the benefits that China, in terms of a government as well as Chinese manufacturers, have over Western car manufacturers. However, one of them is on display here. This is very much vertical integration. So think way back in the day like River Rouge as terms of Henry Ford, where they literally, steel came in one side, rubber came in the other side, and a car popped out on the opposite end of the factory. Not exactly the same case here, but there's a number of bits that go into production of every different vehicle that BYD makes, whether it's low-line, mid-line, or high-end brand, where they produce most of the components for the vehicle. Like, for example, they started as a battery manufacturer. So all of the screens, you see there are 3 screens in this mid-level car here, BYD makes all of it. So an observation for someone who used to work in a car factory in Germany. This is A, one of the most quiet car factories I've ever experienced, and B, one of the darkest. Now, one could say that this is the case of it's a lot of automation. Actually, there's a lot of people that work in this factory. They just happen to be contained in very specific areas, and they're focused on either the B5 or the mid-size line we looked at, and then this obviously is the end of the line where they do the QA. Interesting fun fact about a Chinese car factory I didn't expect. Now, if you've been following along this far, you're starting to see a picture emerge on the importance of the Chinese car industry and BYD. And it's not for the reason that you think or the media tells you. It's really not all about EVs. It's about the pace and the speed of change in which they introduce to the entire car industry. And then there is this industrial ecosystem that they have created that frankly the West used to do 100 years ago and abandoned. They do incredibly well. But scale does not necessarily equate to success. There's questions of durability and cost in different regions of the world. And then you get to that all-important question that is, again, polarizing. The media tells you that, oh my God, Western car manufacturers and Western governments are committing suicide by not supporting or slowing down, really, EV mandates. And this is where we get to some uncomfortable realities. The Chinese system, it's a mercantilist system. What does that mean? There are tight government controls. The goal is to export more than you import. There are tight government controls over who gets to manufacture what and what, frankly, brand of cars are sold in their domestic market. Well, not brand, but origin of manufacture. Then you layer on top of that national security, which is really the biggest reason why they push EVs. And of course, currency manipulation and currency advantage. Like that $10,000 EV everyone's trying to tell you can buy here in the US, it won't be $10,000 here in the US. Which brings us back to this polarizing competition between the Western car industry and the Chinese car industry. And the reality is, it's not an even playing field.
We can see on the center screen the water depth for now, and it will show the vehicle.
So we're literally floating at this point.
Literally floating, yes.
To understand why Western media completely loses its collective minds over this company, look no further than this, the Yangwang U9. It's an 1,100 plus horsepower luxury SUV that, in an emergency, can literally float and swim through a deep pool of water. Yes, it could be considered brilliant engineering theater. It also can be considered the ultimate internet breaking party trick. Now, in the cold, hard light of day, this perfectly illustrates the tech-first philosophy driving the Chinese automotive push. It proves that they can code a car to navigate a swimming pool. But out here in reality, where vehicles have to interact with physics, tire compounds, and high-speed chassis dynamics, a car can't just rely on software theater. It has to drive and do so with the best of them. Steer into the skid. Mm-hmm. That's what it's called. Steer into the skid. Drift. Yep. Into the yes, sir. Mm-hmm. Okay, so here. D. Got it. Oh, heated steering wheel. This makes for a nice morning. To give you guys an idea, it's like 7:40 in the morning. They had us up at 6. It's about an hour outside of Zhengzhou. Mr. Fertig.
In water here.
Yep.
No brake.
No brake.
No brake. No gas.
No gas, no brake.
No brake.
Yep.
Just
inputs.
Got
it.
Let's go.
There we go. 45 miles an hour. 45K? There we go.
Very good. Very good.
He's surprised. He's like, this guy, I didn't expect this stupid American to be driving this well. That's come from the Von Gittin School of Drifting. That was fun. And what's fascinating about this is, you guys may have seen years ago, I learned this in a Mustang, but to do this in a large luxury car is fascinating. It's like, you wouldn't expect to go and do this in a car that is too expensive to break, but they want us to drive this, so I'm not really going to argue. Okay, let's hit 45 this time. Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah, I wish you could see his face, because he's like, I can't believe this gringo from America is doing this. Okay, that was fun.
Now we can ESC on.
Oh yeah, try it to you. That's not the fun way. That's not fun. Okay, so now we're going to put the nanny aids on to see how well the stability control, traction control, all that kind of stuff works. So this weighs, it's about 5,500 pounds. These are not light cars. They do a wonderful job of packing energy in the batteries, but it comes at a cost of weight. So let's try it out. I'm going to hit it a little harder, this one, because, okay, that's a little fast. Oh, it still lets you drift a little bit. That I didn't expect. That's fascinating. So it doesn't act as fast as some of the Western systems. That was the lesson here.
Very good.
Good man, I like this guy. Sure. Look at this thing. Not a small vehicle. If you think about it in terms of vehicles you and I know, wheelbase probably somewhere between an S-Class and a 5 Series. But what was fascinating taking it out there, it's a combination of the speed of the reaction of the stability control system and the speed of the reaction of the all-wheel drive system. If I were to read into the tea leaves a bit more, it's much like the Western systems you see in like a BMW or a Land Rover, where it raises the limits of interaction and you're enabled to do something like this. Crossing the street here at one of the main kind of shopping areas of Zhengzhou. And I have to point out, what don't you hear? Major intersection. What do you not hear? Yes, tons of scooters, but no engines. Every once in a while you hear a bus engine, but mainly nothing for cars and zero for scooters. It's not quite like Shenzhen where it's 40% EV penetration, but here more than other eastern cities. I have to say, these guys are really good at keeping the heated seat on, and this is a heated steering, no heated steering wheel in this one, because it's probably about 40 degrees out right now. I know you guys are probably laughing at me, but I'm a wimpy Californian now, so I need the heated seat. Okay, let's try it. We in the right mode?
Yeah.
Sport. Sport. There we go. We were in Snowflake. Actually, do not call it snow. Snowflake. You don't feel the weight as much as you would think. This a car with 2 propulsion systems. Matter of fact, it's pretty good. There is some control over the different planes of motion. Yeah, I mean, you can definitely feel as I put the weight through it and try to get my abilities. I'd say the steering could use a little bit of life to it, but for its purpose, fantastic experience for a hybrid going through Gymkhana, my first time in China. And so we arrive at a rather obvious question. What was the thing that surprised us the most, that stood out the most? And it wasn't this crop of flawless cars we've never seen before, we don't get here in the US, and it wasn't a crop of like knockoffs. Rather, it was an impressive first draft of a generation of things to come. Well, let me explain. There's no doom and gloom for Western car manufacturers. Western car manufacturers still have a significant advantage over the Chinese car industry in things like driving dynamics, tactile feel, fit and finish. Those things took 70 to 100 years for the Western car industry to finesse to get to this point. But here's the catch. The Chinese industry ain't going to take anywhere near 70 to 100 years to get to this point. Their pace of change is unlike anything I've ever seen. You've seen me over the years tell you about Hyundai and their pace of change. These guys make Hyundai look like they're sitting still. Okay, first things first. You don't get to say anything in the comments about the chipmunk look. They didn't tell me that I needed a helmet. With that, foot on the brake, it closed both of the doors. And then, oh, look at this. Contrasting color of the seatbelts. They stole that from the Porsche folks, as well as highlight lights on the seatbelt anchor they stole from Midak. With that, the shifter I believe is up here. And off we go. So this quad motor, this one is not the 3,000 horsepower that did the world record. This is a measly, I think it's 1,280 horsepower. So with that, let's make do. And we've got a short track. This is like, best way to describe it, this is like the Zhengzhou version of the Porsche Experience Center. It's about that length of track. Okay, so as a frame of reference, my instructor, when he brought me around the track to kind of acclimate me, he was a $120 going into this first turn. Let's see what I'm at. Oh, hey now. Oh, yeah. That does the rip your face off thing like the Taycan, but way more. We got the blue cones coming up here. Oh, I was a $120. Wow, I didn't expect that. He's got home court advantage. Let's try that. That wasn't particularly elegant. So this 5,500 pounds, that's like the magic number with BYD fans. That's a bit understeer. I don't know if that was user error or the car. Let's chalk it up to the user error. There is no doubt this thing, there's a lot going on. You can feel the computers intervening into the weight, and they're trying to trail brakes for here. Oh, yeah, that's user error. Got to get used to this thing. This is a crazy fast thing. So let's be honest here. You know, I'm only getting a couple of minutes with this car. But what's impressive here, this is a fascinating freshman effort. It could use some chassis tuning and maybe some details with the stability control system. But it manages to be, okay, decent. Feel me moving up and down like this. But the speed, it's definitely there. This is a great example of let's just add a hell of a lot more horsepower. So I got this thing I do in the morning when I get up. I say, it's going to be a good day. And I have to say, so far, and it's only like 7:30 in the morning, this is a great day. That was fun. Okay, so that's what $252,000 buys you. So before we get out, I got to point something out. So you would think, and let's open up the door here. Maybe there's like a button here which automatically opens the door. Rather, the button to open the door is here. Well, I promise it's here. It's kind of like they've channeled their inner Pontiac by putting buttons everywhere. Believe it or not, it was only about a decade ago that the entire Chinese car industry was a punchline. That is clearly no longer the case, but two other fun facts came out of this. Number one, no, it's not the end of the road for the Western car industry. And number two, no, the EV transition isn't going as smoothly as everyone would like you to believe. Which brings us to the real lesson of today, and that is, oh my God, the pace of change. And it's not just limited to the Chinese car industry. It's the Chinese car industry is the change agent. They are moving the entire global auto industry much faster than it's used to and what they like. But that's where we're going to get innovation in the future. So the real takeaway, good, bad, or indifferent, if you choose to ignore this pace of change in the Chinese auto industry, you do so at your own peril. Until I see you in the next episode, bis später.